There seems to be a lot of restlessness in cities and towns. What is Turlock telling you about reopening?
Reopening just a week and a half ago was kind of a conversation about how we would forecast with that. And then all of a sudden, we had a cluster within a nursing skilled facility.
Right.
And from that, kind of stopped our conversation.
So that's highly publicized, that nursing facility. In terms of the people that you govern, are they, would you say, extremely anxious versus what the governor wants them to do?
I would say Turlock's in a 50-50 position. Many people are really worried about their health and welfare, but just as many are really concerned about whether or not they can salvage a business once they get started again. Mm-hmm. And knowing that our revenue is 80% of our revenue is set on small business, it's frightening.
Okay, let's go to a question here. Let's talk about reopening. You were one of several mayors to write a letter to the governor asking him to let Stanislaus County reopen. So why do you feel Stanislaus County and Turlock are ready to reopen? Are you talking about reopen in stages or reopen entirely?
For my signature, I'll speak for myself. It was at that time, before our epidemic in the nursing facility, it was about getting prepared and phasing it with the doctor's permission and making sure that we were set to get going. At that time, population-wise, we had very few people with with positives in our city and within the county. Things have changed a little bit, which makes me a little cautious here because you can't explain away these numbers. You have to be worried about where that trace element will come back to show us that more people could be positive after this. So, but the point of the letter was to make certain that people understand that each thing is not one size fits all, and that we are looking at preparing our businesses once we're in phase whatever for what type of business, to have everything, PPEs, things of that nature, so that they were ready to go on day one to open.
Okay, let's go to the next text coming in from Mayor Bublak of Turlock. Do you see the shelter-in-place order lifting anytime soon? The governor initially was, this is going to be a while, months, and then he's talking weeks. So what do you see as a timeline here?
Well, we have to go by federal and state first, right? So at this point, if I'm guessing in my crystal ball what the governor is going to do, I would suggest that it's going to be a minimum of 2 weeks before he even utters let's move into a slight opening. Okay.
So would you think you would see or expect something more significant? Let's look at the 1st of June. Where do you see us in the state, you and Turlock, Stanislaus County being June 1?
If not anarchy, I see us in a position where people are going to start to open their businesses and try and facilitate some form of their normalcy. And so from that, it's a matter of how we can get directives from the state to get this done in a safe manner. Many places are opening up elsewhere, not to my knowledge in Turlock, but we need to be prepared for the worst sake and possibly at least phase one going forward.
Yeah, a lot of people are very anxious, restless. Okay, you mentioned the assisted living facility in Turlock that has a cluster of outbreaks, COVID. What can you tell us about that? It's how unfortunate this is awful. Are you trying to keep the numbers from that nursing home outside of Turlock and what they're experiencing and the county as well?
No, I think that transparency is incredibly important. I mean, once we have a bigger understanding of where this cluster came from with the trace element involved, I think that we'll be able to show that the deaths and the high positive results are from that facility. But at this moment, we're really not certain. And it is horrific to see, we had 264 people, both residents and staff, were actually tested, and a high amount have a positive with 7 deaths. It is frightening for our city.
Yeah. Next text coming in for the mayor of Turlock. Some California cities were struggling before coronavirus. How is Turlock doing financially overall?
I would suggest to you that we were on the brink of despair prior to COVID-19, and this has put us in a really, really drastic position. We rely heavily for our services, the money that come in from the small businesses. So I don't see us doing well from this point. We actually allocated $500,000 from our reserve that we really don't have to put towards COVID, so that we were prepared in hopes of a reimbursement for that. But our budget is not good, and it's going to be extremely challenging.
Yeah.